The episode bear? I think you are, Bugs. I think you are. Hello everybody. Hi. It's Lindsay J, back with another video, and today I am super excited. We're getting into another podcast episode, of course. If you haven't already, please subscribe to my channel. Make sure you give this video a thumbs up if you like what I talk about. And I really hope that you're having a great day wherever you're at. And also, please make sure to check out all of my social media handles in the description box down below, because I do post quite a bit on Instagram and I would love to hear from you guys. So please DM me or message me or something, because I love hearing you guys' thoughts. So I thought that that would be very nice. So without further ado, let's get on to the video. Dear Diary, they'll call you manipulative the moment you stop abandoning yourself. The moment you stop explaining your softness to people who weaponize it, the moment you begin curating your energy like it's sacred, because it is, the moment you walk into a room and realize you don't owe anyone your unfiltered, unregulated truth, they'll say you're cold, too careful, too polished, too aware, and maybe you are. But maybe that's not the enemy. Maybe that's the wisdom. Maybe that's what it looks like when a person learns how to speak with intention, not desperation. Maybe that's what happens when you've been misunderstood one too many times and decide that your influence deserves direction, not denial. Because the truth is, we're all manipulating something. Every day, every glance, every I'm fine when you're not, every outfit, every caption, every pause before the text you almost sent. You change your voice when you answer the phone. You rehearse conversations in the mirror. You tell half-truths to avoid breaking the peace. That's not evil. That's survival. That's energy. Rehearsing its impact. Call it charm, call it performance, call it intuition, or just call it what it is. Manipulation. Not as a lie, as a language. This episode isn't about pretending you're above it. It's about owning that you're already doing it and deciding if you're going to keep doing it unconsciously or finally do it with grace. Because here's the secret. Manipulation isn't toxic when it's conscious. It's not cruel when it's compassionate. It's not evil when it's rooted in truth. You were born to move energy, to redirect chaos, to soften rooms, to shape meaning with nothing but your presence. You're not manipulative, you're magnetic. And you've just forgotten that you get to choose what people feel when they stand in your frequency. So let's talk about it. XOXO, LJ. Bow, icka, bow, wow. That's what my baby says. I don't know why I keep thinking that Phineas and Ferb song. It was such a fun... They always made really great music so randomly. It's like, I said, bow, chicka, wow, wow. That's what my baby says, bow, wow, wow. And my heart starts pumping. Chicky, chicky, choo, never gonna stop. Chicky, chicky, choo means that I love you. I mean, a bow, chicka, wow, wow. That's what my baby said, ow, ow, ow. And my heart starts pumping. Chicky, chicky, choo, never gonna stop. Chicky, chicky, choo means that I love you. Yeah. Okay. So what I want to explain first is why everyone manipulates. We have such a negative connotation to that word, but I don't think people truly understand that it's something we all do every day as a survival instinct. Mirror neurons and neurobiology says that mirror neurons help babies imitate facial expressions. That imitation is manipulative, designed to bond. And study says that children as young as 4 begin to use deceptive behavior to navigate conflict and achieve goals. Once again, a form of manipulation. Then, of course, there's childhood conditioning, where crying is the same as manipulating caregivers for safety, food, or love. Faking a laugh at a dinner table, manipulation for social acceptance. Childhood trains us to read and shape emotional environments. So that's what tells you that early in our lives, even when we first come out, we have to learn different ways of... Uh-oh, my girl just said, where you at? So this literally tells us that in early childhood, we literally have to learn how to manipulate situations in order for us to survive. You know, the facts already tell us that crying is a form of manipulation, because since we weren't able to speak, we would have to find a way to manipulate our environment for our own safety. Basically like food, necessities, and our caregivers to know that something's going on. That's a form of manipulation. There's also all these social moments when people tend to manipulate, because, for example, when you say that you're okay when you're not, you are manipulating the truth and hoping that you'll get your social acceptance in return. So you're changing the story or manipulating how you show up in order to get social acceptance. That's a form of manipulation. And then language is also a form of manipulation. You can use your tone, rhythm, volume, and silence, and each of these have been weaponized and sanctified in the past. I guess a great example of this is definitely politicians and lawyers who are trained manipulators of syntax. They understand that how you say things and when you say things make a huge difference in how it impacts the individuals who are listening. They are perfect examples of individuals who are like a lot of highly influential individuals who are very good at manipulation, but they don't use manipulation for good. They use manipulation for their good, but their form of good for them causes so much harm on others. That's not the kind of manipulation we want. We want good manipulation that's actually good for yourself and good for others too, because that's possible. That's actually a really possible thing that we could be doing. We could be living lives where we're actually glorifying happiness if we wanted to. We can rewrite what's trendy. We can rewrite how things are. We can rewrite how we show up. So if you choose to be more authentic and you choose to show up vulnerably as who you are, instead of changing or manipulating your exterior persona in order to gain social acceptance, the world may become a lot more beautiful. Now, this is the other thing that especially is super big, is propaganda. So brand campaigns, emotional storytelling, these manipulate by design. These big marketing companies, they use trends and things like that, create a storytelling scenario and then film it as a marketing tool for their brand campaign, because they know that it resonates with the people who are watching. That's manipulating. That's manipulating media. There are certain things that are banned in this country that aren't in others. That's, again, all forms of manipulation. Not necessarily the best ones. Maybe not a great form of manipulation, but it is technically still one. So I'm like, and I wanted to bring up Edward Bernays, who is a fraud's nephew, and he used psychoanalysis to invent public relations, which is the art of mass manipulation. That's PR, baby. And it's what we use in entertainment all the time. So everybody's out there manipulating things. I just want us to start manipulating things consciously so we can actively choose to do it in a way that's good, not just for ourselves, but others. I just feel like manipulation isn't what breaks trust. I think it's the illusion that it doesn't exist. I mean, social media likes and shares and comments and all that stuff is all manipulation feedback loop. We're not just sharing anymore, we're shaping perception. And anytime we shape perception, we're actively manipulating something. So I feel like in general, life is all about manipulation. I mean, we always have to manipulate our environments. And that's why I think so many people are subconsciously so controlling, is because maybe they fear manipulation and they feel as though people will manipulate in a bad way. But you can actually manipulate in a really beautiful way. And you can manipulate situations, like, for example, doing a kind gesture for no reason for someone, like your loved one or your partner. That's all manipulation. You're manipulating and creating a situation in order for them to have a pleasant experience. The outcome is their happiness, right? But that's still a form of manipulation, because you're doing something so that they can perceive a situation in a certain light. And that's a really good example of when manipulation is used for a beautiful, positive thing, and I wish that more people would do that. Because the art of manipulation isn't what we should fear. It's the lack of knowledge behind it, because people are already doing it subconsciously. all the times when men or women really, if anybody is like grooming people, for example, like young individuals and grooming them for their advantage, that all takes manipulation. And these are things that people are doing actively all the time, which is so sad. I can't believe we live in a world like that sometimes. I can't believe that we live in a world where people exist and what they want to do is bad things. I'm like, what happened to you? Please tell me what's really going on, because there's something deep down in you that needs to come out, and maybe after that you'll change. Your perception of everything will change. Your perception of life will change, because change is a beautiful thing. It doesn't have to be something that we fear or fight against. People want to fight against and push against change and new patterns and new ways of living, when it's like, no, embrace it. Embrace it. Start like finding joy in all of the ups and downs, because it's just life. You cannot avoid it. You cannot avoid the bad things. You cannot avoid the ugly. So embrace it now. Embrace it. Just accept that life is something that you cannot control. The only things you can control is what you say, how you show up every single day, and the things that you do in the moment. That's all you can control. You can build up your schedule for the rest of 2025, and guess what? You still have no control over whether or not those things happen. What if somebody passes away before you can meet them? What if you pass away before you make that paycheck? I mean, that's my point. Stop waiting until you have this or you're there or whatever, to start embracing change, happiness, growth, acceptance now. Because manipulation also kind of goes hand in hand with alchemy. Because alchemy is like a way of bringing things together in order to create a certain outcome. So I feel like once you start to like really look into manipulation, then you can start to alchemize things in your real life, which kind of touches down on manifestation and how manifestation works. I realized that like manifestation, it's not enough to just say something repeatedly and say that you want something or that you're going to get something. That's not the real art of manifestation. The art of manifestation is you're training your subconscious mind to accept whatever it is you're repeating to it. But not everybody's brain functions that way. Not everybody can, continuously repeat a word or a sentence and have it actually stick to their subconscious. At least from what I've noticed, from people who are like, I'm manifesting this, and they don't manifest anything. It's because it's not sticking into your subconscious. The life that you want and who you are and all those things, you don't truly believe it to be true. So you repeat the words over and over again. But your subconscious isn't registering it as true because you yourself don't believe in it. And that's what is the biggest piece of it. Because what manifestation is trying to teach you and what it's trying to do is it's trying to get you to... it's trying to get you into a headspace where you're teaching your subconscious to live the life that you want in the now. With the goal that when your brain starts to accept that who you are now is who you want to be, you start to make decisions from a mentality of your higher self, the individual version of you that you want to be. So you're no longer waiting to become someone and growing into it. You're recognizing that you already are that someone, and because of that, you're making decisions as if you're that someone now, instead of waiting until you are that person. Like, for example, like so many people like wait until they get more wealthy to like hit the gym, or like they'll wait until certain milestones to start eating healthy or whatever. Just do it now. Don't wait, don't wait, don't wait. Don't rely on life and its unpredictability and think that that's control. This is why you have so much uncertainty. This is why you're so, stressed and anxious and having all these things in your life. It's because there's a cognitive dissonance between how you're showing up and how your heart wants you to show up. And you keep battling yourself. You keep telling to yourself, this is what I want, but society tells me this is who I should be. My religion, my culture, my peers, my parents, my family, like, you are now battling against yourself, and that internal battle is what causes cognitive dissonance. And cognitive dissonance is a really big cause of anxiety, depression, all types of mental health issues. Because your body is constantly in a feeling of fight or flight. Your cortisol levels are spiking out of the freaking roof, and your nervous system doesn't know how to regulate itself because you don't even allow yourself to experience the emotions fully because you think that you have to control them. and being able to control them is your way of comfort. But it's not really actually healthy for you. It's self-sabotaging. That's what it is. And I think it's important that people recognize that. Oh, hey y'all. Oh my god, this is a different day. I'm sorry guys that I haven't been posting. I've just been going through so much in my personal life, honestly, that that's why I haven't been on top of things, but I'm trying to get back into the groove. If you guys want to see me more consistently, I do post like almost every single day on Instagram. So expanding onto YouTube is like an additional thing for me, but you know, I've just been kind of going through a lot, so that's why it's been so inconsistent. So please bear with me on that, but I'm back and I'm going to really try hard to hold myself. Leo! I'm gonna really try hard to hold myself accountable and stay consistent this time. So let's get straight back into the episode. So now I want to talk about the ethics of influence, harmful versus conscious manipulation. The theme in this is pretty much the morality of manipulation lies in intention and impact. Those are, you know, kind of the things that determine whether or not manipulation is something that's actually bad. Because as I've said before, I think that manipulation is just something that we associate with negativity. But it's something that we all do inherently as human beings. It's a survival tactic that we need in order to get things as humans. But it's what you do with your ability to manipulate things that actually matters. An example of harmful manipulation would be like coercion, gaslighting, love bombing, rewriting the narrative or reality, and it's often used to preserve power or avoid accountability. Whereas conscious manipulation is about influence guided by compassion, clarity, and boundaries. Therapists use it to guide breakthroughs, parents use it to foster safety, and that is the main difference between conscious manipulation and harmful manipulation. To me, it's like a representation of a knife. A knife can be used to harm, but it can also be used to cut and make something delicious. But it's up to the person who holds the knife to choose what they do with it. That is manipulation in a nutshell. Honestly, indigenous cultures to me are extremely fascinating because they're always doing things that in westernized cultures is just like considered, maybe not like necessarily woo-woo, but just highly spiritual to the degree of like maybe bordering religious. But like here, when people do it for religious purposes, it's more like propaganda in order to gain more money or support in whatever it is that they're doing. Whereas in indigenous cultures, it's actually a part of their culture. They're not benefiting from these beliefs in the same way that we do here in westernized cultures. There's no monetary gain. It's just like, for example, in some indigenous cultures, manipulation is a form of emotional engineering. So it's used to de-escalate. Oh, kitty! In some indigenous cultures, manipulation is a form of emotional engineering. So it will be used to de-escalate, redirect, or maintain harmony within a community, which is beautiful, honestly. We need more of that. Those are peacemakers, pretty much. So now I want to like open up with a few questions. So what is the intended outcome of your influence? That is like step one. If you're somebody who's trying to be able to harness the art of manipulation, you first need to ask yourself, like, what is your intended outcome? What do you want to happen? What is your goal with this individual or with these people? What is your the goal for you? Is it something that's positive? Does it benefit them? Does it benefit you? Does it benefit both of you? Ideally, you're creating a situation that benefits both of you or the other person. But definitely not a situation that only benefits you and not them. The only time that situations like that to me are okay is if like the other person surprises you with something that you may really love and they may not be that into, but because you love it, they decide to like surprise you and have a good time because they enjoy seeing you happy. That's a form of manipulation, but again, it's with good intention and everybody has a fantastic time. So what is your intention? Because if your intention is to go in there and change this individual's like way of being or thinking so that you can cause harm or it will cause harm to them long term, that is when manipulation becomes bad. And again, these are things that we can consciously avoid doing, but most people, if they're stuck in their own insecurities or fear biases or repetitive self-sabotaging loop cycles, then, you know, they stay stuck.
then they stay stuck in these dynamics where they subconsciously manipulate situations that lead to their own self-sabotaging downfall. And it's really unfortunate because those individuals, until they come to terms with the fact that they've been self-sabotaging their own happiness or have played a role in self-sabotaging their own happiness for a long portion of their life, it intimidates them too much to even want to try and make a change. And that's the sad part, because like, the change is what creates the beauty. That's what is necessary in order for you to grow. You can't grow without change, and you can't, if you don't change your environment either, you can't grow. Like, plants that are tropical plants won't survive in Antarctica, for example, right? So you've got to place them where they will grow. You need to be around an environment of people, of things that nourish you and help you to grow. And if you are pushing yourself to be put into situations or places or dynamics internally, externally, existentially that are misaligned to who you are at your core and who your soul wants you to show up as on this, energy field, then you're going to feel that dissonance. You're going to feel that internal spiral of knowing that feeling that your heart wants something different than what your head's telling you to do. And that misalignment is really just misery in a nutshell. And so many people are stuck in that loop, but it's subconscious, so they can only understand the feeling, but they don't know how to actually bring it to language. And because they don't know how to bring language to it, they're not able to go through them. And a lot of times it's like kind of sad, because people will look at emotions and they'll look at them as like these negative things, like these confusing, chaotic, illogical things, when there actually is a language to emotions. There is a logic and a system and a massive database of points and codes and all types of incredible things that are hidden within emotions. But because people are afraid to learn the language, they misinterpret their ignorance for wisdom and knowledge, and don't even end up trying. And I hate that, because people miss out so much. And again, that's how manipulation can end up happening, because if your intention is to only benefit yourself, and if it's not benefiting you, then you leave, that's technically manipulation too. You're manipulating situations to be idealistic or hyper unrealistic, because nothing is perfect. Nobody's perfect. Nothing is perfect. Life is complicated. If you seriously want to be in a relationship at any point in your life, you're going to have to realize that that is just the reality. Life will not always be perfect. So if you don't have a partner that you can rely on during times that are hard and when things are going on, then you're wasting your time in your relationship. So the next question you want to ask is, who benefits from the manipulation? Is it you? Is it you and them? Is it them? What? Typically, I feel like most of the time when I manipulate people, it's for the other person's benefit. I guess it is kind of for my benefit, but it's mostly for them, because my joy is in seeing other people happy. So like, when I can see that there's like something small I could do or say that I think will make the other person smile or happy or laugh, and they'll have like a positive experience with me, then of course I'm gonna say those things and do those things, because of course I want them to feel safe, to feel happy, and seeing others happy makes me really happy. So then it's just really fun. And it's always important. I just noticed though, like in marketing and again, the Western culture, it's like everything is so selfish. Everything is self-motivated. It's like, what are you doing any of this for? And it's like, oh, for myself, to prove to myself, to help my family, to do things. And it's like, everybody's just selfish, honestly. Not necessarily in a bad way, but I don't think it's a good thing either. I think we need to like stop being so hyper individual and start waking up to the reality that they're feeding you that reality because it actually benefits them more to do so. Like just step back for a moment, right? What makes a better employee? The one who literally dedicates his entire existence to working and being the best employee ever to the detriment of their own internal peace and happiness, or the individuals who are actually authentically happy and striving to create businesses as opposed to work for them? Obviously, they're not going to want the latter, because the latter isn't going to bring that business money. So what do? They ingrain the belief that doing things individually and going through the system and the corporate ladder and doing things a specific way is the way to go, because if you go through that route, they benefit. They're not looking for what you can do, because what they care about is bringing in money for themselves. That's what that is. There's nothing having to do with you. They don't even care about offering high value product. Nobody cares about offering real value anymore. There's like so many things out there on the market that's like so oversaturated with low quality things that are being priced way too high, not worth it at all. But because they have a name or a brand or an image or whatever attached to it, it's like, oh my god, now we're gonna do this whole thing. And you know, who is it benefiting? Nobody except for the CEO. What do you actually get? What are you actually getting from this? Like, literally nothing. So, you know, if all you're providing to others is nothing, like you're not actually giving them anything that they can walk away with that's going to make them knowledgeable or feel happy or distracted from their problems in life, or like, if you're not outputting energy that is positive and making the people around you feel good, then like, what are you doing? Like, where, because the positive energy isn't going in towards you either. So you're just like sitting in negative energy. Neutral, to me, like, I don't think neutral really exists. There's just no such thing. Neutral is a forced state. I don't think that it's possible to like just be neutral. I think that it's a forced state. I think humans by default tend to lean on one side or the other. But like, neutrality is a forced state. I guess it comes easier to people over time. But I would say though, like, a lot of times people will like misinterpret neutrality for avoidance. Like, they think that they're being grounded when in reality they're actually doing the opposite. They're using like groundedness as a mask for avoidance because they don't yet have the skill sets and the tools for emotional regulation or emotional co-regulation alongside other people. So instead of acknowledging that issue or understanding it by working through it in a relationship or with a partner, which is how you're supposed to, they will claim that it's being grounded, neutral, you're too much, or they can't handle it. That's just like the cycle I've tended to notice how people move here. And to me, that it's really illogical. It doesn't make sense at all. So does it elevate truth or distort it? That's the third and final question. Does it elevate the truth or does it distort it? Because if you are manipulating a story in order to create an outcome that's based off of false narratives or false things, false information, that is like straight up manipulation. That's just deceit, lying, and coercion. Why can I never freaking talk sometimes? So that's why I always talk to myself and I'm like, manipulation isn't, and that's why I always say to myself that manipulation is not inherently unethical. It becomes unethical when it centers ego over ethics. That is when manipulation becomes bad. But manipulation in reality is just an understanding of human psychology and behavioral analysis. Once you can understand how people feel, how they move and why, and you can understand their motivations behind things, anybody can be a manipulator. Technically, an alchemist is a manipulator. It's the same kind of thing. You're like, you know, putting things together that you have or you already know elements to create and alchemize something out of it that is beneficial to yourself, others, or everyone involved. I like to alchemize things into positivity that is beneficial for everyone. I think that there's always room for everyone to win, but I think that sometimes in order to find a winning solution for all, you have to really sit down and think creatively and abstract and run through all the different possibilities. And because people don't want to sit down in that discomfort, they miss out on all the fun, creative possibilities. I think a lot of times people also just don't understand, like, they don't know how to handle conflict resolution. So instead of handling conflict resolution or learning how to do so, they try to avoid conflict by using manipulation tactics to kind of, you know, delegate parts of the conversation to other areas so that they don't end up having to, you know, talk about or go through the things that they are fearful of discussing or bringing up. And, you know, that again can be bad if you're doing it for unethical reasons. If you're doing that because you just don't feel like opening up about certain things, that's completely different. But if you're like, you know, taking information and then falsely changing it so that you can get a positive outcome for yourself, that is bad. It's unethical. Just no. Like, just don't do that. And that's what brings me to the idea that manipulation is a power when it's rooted in love. Because empathy can become a strategic tool and influence can be sacred. I feel like there are a few different types of, forms of emotional manipulation that are actually positive. So the first one is emotional alchemy, which is the power to shift a room's energy, which is a form of manipulation. And it can be healing, which is really beautiful. People like Martin Luther King, Gandhi, and emotional influences have used this tactic as they are leaders for very impactful movements that have helped people in beautiful ways to heal our cultures, to heal our societies, and really just beautiful ways. They pretty much manipulated emotional attention toward moral awakening, which is a beautiful thing. Some of the conscious examples of this is like when you're lighting a candle to create peace. Like when you go to a church and you light a candle, that's environmental manipulation. When you change your tone to de-escalate conflict, that is emotional engineering, which is a form of manipulation. which is a form of manipulation. And just think about this too, like you're manipulating every time that you adjust your "I'm fine" to come across as like, more realistic, I guess you could say. In relationships, healthy manipulation and love can be soothing, redirecting, or co-regulating, which is such an important thing. People never talk about co-regulation in a relationship. And it's one of the main things that leads to the downfall of like relationships nowadays. Man, especially mine. It's like dudes are just so afraid of like reality. I don't know if it's necessarily reality, but I guess emotions and the reality that you can't control them. And just because you can't control emotions all the time doesn't make them dangerous. It's all about who you're with. So if you're with somebody who's emotionally toxic or turbulent, then there you go. But it's like people don't understand that, again, we have the power to manipulate our world, our lives, and build that into the direction that we want. So if an individual has issues with themselves, usually for everyone actually, it takes a relationship for those issues to even come out. And you can choose to either hit them head on and manipulate your life towards something beautiful, or you can stay stuck in the cycle that you're in where nothing actually happens and you sabotage something real. Which is something I think so many people end up doing, and it's really just sad because conflict doesn't need to be a bad thing. And yes, people do change all the time. They just have to be willing to do the work. It's not about changing who you are. It's about learning how to adjust and co-regulate and create synchronicity with another person. It's not about taking away your independence, your autonomy, or taking you off balance. If anything, it's actually about empowerment, because a healthy relationship empowers you. It empowers the self because it triggers self-discovery. And again, you cannot grow without being put in an environment that challenges you. So if you're somebody who's like, I want to grow, I want to get to this best version of me, then stop cutting off relationships. Stop being fearful and avoiding conflict, because it's within the conflict that you grow the most. And if you are taking yourself away from the equation, not only is the other person missing out on growth, but so are you, and you're missing out on the potential to grow out of the situation. People stay stuck. They become jaded. They generalize situations based off of past experiences, and because each person is different with their own set of ways of being and ways of thinking and wiring and all these things, it's like, okay, well, at this point, that's just a protective mechanism that you've put in place to avoid the same potential heartaches to occur again. And again, sometimes those defensive mechanisms are great, but when you use those defenses against someone who cares real and somebody who is really willing to put into the work that's necessary in order to maintain something real long term, then you are really just self-sabotaging and missing out on something truly incredible, because especially nowadays in modern dating, it's so hard to meet people. It's so hard to meet people that you connect with, especially, or who understands you or wants to understand you or wants something real. So it's like when people find that and you give it up, it's like, why are you doing that? There's no reason. You know, what is the actual reason? And if the reason isn't the other person, then all that's left is you. And it doesn't mean that you're a bad person, but it means that maybe there are some things in you that are fearful of the situation. And instead of like going about it the proper way and confronting it head on so you can grow and so can the other person and it can continue to flourish in the way that it's supposed to, you're just avoiding the entire situation. But in doing so, you create the very heartache that you don't want. You're creating the heartache that you're trying to avoid by keeping within a cycle that's not good for anyone. And it just sucks, because that, to me, is kind of what sums up modern dating in a nutshell at this point. So some of the tools of ethical manipulators is tone calibration, like adjusting your voice, way of speaking to something more gentle and soft so that people can feel safer, so that you can feel more regulated. Studies have actually shown that, like, you know, if people have ever referred to your voice as raspy or sultry or relaxing, well, sultry voices, like, studies have proven that sultry voices kind of speak naturally at a tone that calms the nervous system. So that's why things like jazz music and all those things, it creates that level of resonance, because the tone of that voice, especially if it's sultry or soulful or whatever, it's actually a tone that scientifically resonates with the human nervous system. So that's one of the other things I find so fascinating, is that what people don't realize is that there really is a language to emotions. There's science behind emotions. Like, our reactions, our responses to things, they're not just psychological, they're physiological too. Because our brain and how we think and how we perceive the world tells our body, tells the rest of our body what to do. So if you're in hypervigilance mode or you're traumatized from things, then your brain signals to your body that, you know, you need to be aware of certain things. But when you've gotten used to that pattern over and over again, you become so hypervigilant that it starts getting triggered by even the smallest of things, or things that just don't justify the disconnection, you know. And I feel like that's, you know, a frustrating thing that I feel like I just see so much nowadays. Then the next ethical manipulation tool is mirroring, so that you can build trust. Mirroring is like, if somebody shares something intimate with you, you share something intimate back, to pretty much share reciprocity within the space. You know, when people do this in a negative manner, I would say that it's big corporations charging a lot of money for products that they pay extremely cheap for. It's because they're using like manipulation tactics to justify you purchasing like a $2 product for like $20. And all of that, the difference between the $2 and the $20 is straight up manipulation. But that's manipulation in a bad way, because here you are paying $20 for a $2 product, you know? And they're calling that a brand. So that is bad manipulation. It's good for business, good for CEOs, good for the profiting people, but like in a practical manner, as an example, the consumers don't actually benefit anything, unless it's like healthcare, whatever. But even the healthcare system is like not really that great. So, you know, they don't mirror our energy, they mirror an illusion of energy. But when you're trying to mirror it in an ethical way, you provide back what you're receiving. If people are giving you good energy, if you're receiving good energy, then you give back the same amount, if not more, good energy in return. You start to build what I like to call good karma, because people always talk about karma in the negative sense. They're always just talking about like, oh yeah, like, you know, karma, you did something wrong and karma's gonna get you. Like, they only talk about it in a negative sense, but there is a such thing as a good karma. So every good act of kindness or good deed that you do, it adds up. And over time, the universe sees that, and it starts providing you with abundance, with things, with, you know, opportunities that can help to push you to that next level where you are trying to be. So I think that it's really important that we build trust with people by mirroring their energy, you know, facing things when it's scary, communicating openly and always being transparent. Because even if you are in business, trust is really important. You know, building rapport with your clients and business partners is like literally so crucial in order for business to even work well. And the only way for people to be able to do that is to be consistent and to constantly show up. You know, words are great, but actions speak louder than words. So if you're saying things, but you're not actually showing up in person or showing up real in your life, then, you know, it doesn't really count in the same way. It's not mirroring, it's not building trust, it's actually not building anything. Then the next tool, ethical tool, is timing. It's always about timing too. Like giving yourself the permission to follow your energy or follow the flow of how somebody else is feeling or how you are feeling, instead of trying to control everything. You adjust to the vibrations of your own frequency and then use that adjustment to benefit yourself long term. Honestly, that could be like a form of biohacking. It's like when you start to get to know yourself so intimately that you see your weakest points and you use your strengths to overcompensate for your weakest points, but not in a way that's self-sabotage, which is what a lot of people do, in a way that almost turns it into a superpower you can control. One that doesn't leak over into your personal relationships, your personal bonds and friendships, and your personal, like, social life, essentially. Oh my God, I have like cat fur all over my face because my cats were like all up on me, and now it's like feeling so uncomfortable. And then the last ethical tool for manipulation is redirection. And redirection is fantastic because it can lead to evolution. You know, you're redirecting people, reframing their vision so that they can, you know, pursue things that helps to evolve them as a person. Like what motivational life coaches do, motivational speakers or influencers, or just like people who put out positive content for the sake of trying to, you know, make people feel good. That is a really great version of redirection for evolution's sake. And so that's why it leads me down to this boiling fact that empathy is manipulation with soul. It doesn't erase, it just expands. Now I want to talk about how manipulation is also something like a frequency, like the invisible art of manipulation. The ability to manipulate others before you even open your mouth, essentially. And I would say like one of the first portions of that is the vibration before vocabulary. So like your eye contact, your body language, your breathing rhythm. This sets the room more than words ever will. And that's why confidence tends to be so subconsciously attractive to people. Like sometimes you could see somebody who may not be that attractive with an incredibly attractive partner, and we make jokes because we're like, oh, it's probably their personality or their confidence. And it's true, because confidence does make you attractive. You can be the most attractive person in the world, but if you're so insecure that, you know, you're never looking at things and, you know, you're slouching and you're closed off and all those things, you're not going to really appeal as attractive to anyone. Nobody's going to be attracted to you because you're coming across as too distant, not as approachable as someone who maybe isn't the most attractive person in the room, but maybe they are just very present. Like, you know, they're not on the phone, they're smiling, they're chatting to people, they're just very present. That is really attractive. So that person, even before they speak, you can see based off of their behavior, how they interact with the room, that, you know, they have an energy about them that makes you feel like they're anchored in who they are. And, you know, if you are that person, then it gives you the capability to, you know, kind of manipulate others because they start to see you in a certain way. And, I just wish that more people would do this in a way that was like more positive. I'm telling you guys, I read like Robert Greene and all those things, like crazy person. I love psychology, I'm obsessed with it, and philosophy and all those things. And I'm profoundly gifted, so I know these things like the back of my hand. I can't always explain to people how I know these things, but just please trust me that I do know a lot of things. It's so hard to explain, but I just know things that most people don't understand because my brain processes information at a level in which others just don't have the cognitive ability to do so. It's like my brain is constantly functioning with like 10,000 tabs open on like a Mac computer. You know, like let's say you have 10,000 tabs open on Chrome and everybody else has like one or two. That is what it's like to be cross-domain gifted. So when you're like thinking about things, when I look at a situation or an issue, I don't think about it linearly. I think about it cross-domain, which means that I'm not just thinking about like, if somebody gives me a science problem, I'm not going to stay within the constrictions of science to come up with an answer. Like most people, if you're in science class and they ask you a question, you're going to use science to answer the science question. That's linear thinking. Even somebody who's really intelligent, highly intelligent, is going to think in that manner. People who are profoundly gifted, we don't think that way. We're going to take account history, statistics, philosophy, existential issues, like psychology, all types of mediums, sometimes even bring in nature, biology, physiology, neuroscience. Like we'll bring in all these various domains just to come to a singular conclusion. And because of that, I'm able to like break things down in my head much quicker than the average person. So when I say things, it's not just me talking out of my butt. It's like a mix between my experience, my knowledge on human psychology, and my like insane ability as somebody who is cross-domain genius and profoundly gifted to piece together information in a way that can sometimes even predict outcomes in the future. Some people can refer to that as like a psychic ability. I don't refer to it as a psychic ability. I refer to it as profoundly gifted pattern recognition. I can recognize patterns in people and things, and I can just recognize patterns in everything you can imagine. And because I recognize patterns so quickly, I'm able to almost accurately predict what's going to occur based off of that pattern. To me, that's not really the same as how others perceive psychic abilities, which is why I'm saying that. But can I predict outcomes in the future? Yes. Can I feel when things are off in situations where other people can't because I'm living at a sensitivity rate that's much higher than others? Yes, I can. So like when I talk about these things, and especially things like manipulation and these types of abilities, I'm saying this from not just knowledge but also personal experience, you know. And I always find that so fascinating because when you say that you're cross-domain gifted, people don't know what cross-domain is. Most people only understand what genius is. Somebody who's a genius is like somebody who's typically highly intelligent. They could be intelligent in multiple subjects, but they're not like geniuses in multiple subjects. They're typically geniuses within one domain, one realm, and they master it. Same so to somebody who's like a savant. A cross-domain genius or somebody who's polymathic are individuals who are showing signs of genius level intelligence across multiple unrelated domains. Like, for example, I don't talk about it on here, but I actually do robotic engineering on my free time at home. I actually am building my own artificial intelligence system. So, you know, it's like, I don't show that, but I'm just saying like it's been a very fascinating journey because what I'm learning is it's like you can't, it's like what they say about Albert Einstein. It's not about how well you score at school or how well you do on exams and tests and all that stuff. It's about literally how your brain processes information. When people are looking at science, they're thinking science. When I'm looking at science, I'm thinking of science, biology, mathematics, statistics, evolution, like history. Like I'm thinking of all the things. Sometimes I even bring in mythology, depending on what's going on. So, you know, it's like, that's the difference. It's not like oh, you're cooler, you're better, whatever. It's literally just a interesting ability to predict and also feel other people's energy. And so that's why I'm saying, especially when it comes to vibration wise, your body, it puts out energy. If you're very open, you're giving eye contact, you're engaged, you really actually want to listen to people and like try and understand things, then, you know, you're going to give off an energy that makes people want to lean in, and that gives you power. So, but with that power and charm comes responsibility, and that responsibility is where manipulation comes into play. In the entertainment world, people use their charm to get things that aren't always the greatest. That's where coercion comes into play, things like that. but you don't have to play it that way. If all we do is study how people manipulate power for bad, then how is anybody going to learn how to manipulate it for good, where everyone can win? So let's talk about that instead of all the people who have done it in the bad way. Let's talk about how we can use it as a tool for greatness for all, instead of trying to use manipulation of power as a tool to gain and conquer power over others. Why don't we try and find a way to make it so that we can all elevate in a way that's beneficial for everyone. Beneficial for everyone. Something that people don't realize is that by default, humans will always have a hierarchy system. We are just built that way. And the reason I say that is because money exists. Not everybody is going to be capable or wanting to do the things that it takes for others to become extremely wealthy. So even if we opened up opportunities to everyone, the percentage of people who will actually become successful is extremely small in comparison to the fraction of people who will try. And the reason I'm saying that is just to say that gatekeeping, holding back knowledge, this, very oligarchic type world where the 1% controls a lot of things and keeps the money within themselves because they don't want to differentiate the money. It's like what they're not understanding though is that by nature that will happen. By nature that will happen. So the more that we keep focusing on that, the more people are manipulating power for negative. When in reality, if we just focused on creating good things for all of us, if we started creating like, hey, you know what? We're all just freaking humans. Let's figure out ways to make evolution easier for us as a species instead of like, differentiating each other between all these different things. If we were to like awaken and get to a place where we're like, hey, actually, you know what? Let's just try to evolve our species so we can last as long as possible. Let's just do that. And if we start reframing our brain to that standard, then people probably wouldn't care as much about other stupid things that we seem to argue and fight about all the time. It's like, let's just focus on the fact that we're all human, that we all have desires for certain things, and the more we focus on that fact, the more creative ideas we can come up with instead of focusing on how to hurt each other. We could be coming up with ideas to change the world we live in right now. And so many people are like, that can be idealistic, that can be, a utopian society, and it's like, it's not utopian and it's not idealistic. People could do this if they want. We just don't have the leadership right now that projects positive leadership. We don't have leadership that teaches others on how to be leaders because they want to be the leaders. They don't understand that by default, humans will always have a hierarchy system. It's not possible for everybody to be a millionaire, billionaire, trillionaire. It's just not. Even if you gave them all the tools, everybody had equal ability, starting at the same level. Let's say we're in a communist society and everybody's starting at like the same level. Even in that situation, if you're not bounded by the rules of communism, like you're just all starting out on the same playing field, even still, not everybody is going to make it to that top. It takes effort. It takes time. Then there's people who naturally just have a head up because of who they were born into. Their families were wealthy already, whatever their situations may be. That could hold them back too. All types of things, right? But again, the moral of the story is that I think it's important that we learn how to value connection, and we learn how to value empathy and understanding, and using empathy as a manipulation tactic for good as opposed to bad. Instead of manipulating people's feelings to benefit ourselves only, while not offering them anything real in return, why don't we try and find ways to navigate and make it so that both of us are benefiting something? It's like everybody's struggling so much that they're like in their own bubbles, they're kind of stuck in their own worlds. Not self-absorbed in a bad way, but just in a way where it's like people are so stuck in their own storms that they're unable to even be there for each other. And that's the sad part. That's what they want from us. That's why manipulation for bad is so dangerous. Because when powerful individuals are using manipulative tactics in order to change the agendas, create propaganda that benefits their own personal narratives, after a certain amount of time, people start to believe the manipulation as accurate, as truthful, as real. And that can become just as dangerous. And we see this happening all the time, not just in media, but also in things like the fitness industry. You know, there's also things like that happening in the beauty industry, you know, like bringing these impossible standards to people. You have influencers who are using injections and lying and saying that they're not, and then young men are, you know, doing very harmful things to their bodies in order to attain that image, but can't because they're being lied to, and the fact that the image was attained through not what they're saying, essentially. They're selling these courses, these packages, these things, these images, and yet the results don't come, but insecurity rises, you know? And that's not good. That's manipulation. It's people using social media and social media psychology, which is a real thing. The psychology of how people behave on social media. It is a whole entire study. And, you know, they're calculating how you run psychologically on the platform so that they can manipulate that data and turn it into ways of monetization. Like, and again, that just gives me Black Mirror moment, okay? That's so, like, to me, it's just so crazy. That's why I don't really stay online all that much. I don't really watch too much movies or TV shows. I don't even own a TV. I don't plan to own one. I could easily get one. I just don't, like, want one. I don't have any intention of watching things. It's just, like, it's too much. And after being unplugged for so long, watching things almost feels like foreign to me because it's just so much. It's just so much. And so that's why I want to ask to you guys, to those of you who want to be entertainers or want to, like, you know, gain power, I want you to ask yourself, what do people feel when you walk in? And what are you silently teaching others to expect from you? These two questions, I want you to, like, really go into depth, maybe like in a journal or something, because this will actually help you to find ways to manipulate your already existing strengths and turn them into ways of building your own future, but in a way that's ethical, so that you're not cheating the system or cheating people. You're actually just manipulating and alchemizing something beautiful for yourself that will also help to benefit others. Because when you understand what others want, what they're looking for, you can not just provide them what they want so you can get what you need, but you can understand them better and decide to give them something even more catered to them so that they feel good. And then you also get whatever it is that you want, you know? And so that's why I say that manipulation doesn't start with speech, it starts with frequency. Influence is energetic architecture. So now I want to talk about how we're going to reclaim manipulation as self-mastery. We can look at manipulation as a mirror that's reflecting your unconscious or your clarity. And, you know, influence begins from within. And if you don't master your inner world, you manipulate from your wounds, not your wisdom. And that can lead to self-sabotage. It can cause harm on others subconsciously. And that leads straight into the whole concept of the law of emotional echo, when how you feel internally starts to be projected externally. If you're happy with yourself internally, you start to project a negative energy on others because you don't love yourself, or you don't believe you deserve the love. So how can you treat others compassionately? How can you have that energy if you can't even have the capacity to love yourself or feel for yourself or be emotional with yourself? You know, and there's ways to practice power. You can practice your power by seeing how you adjust the temperature of a room by walking in. If your energy attracts people instantly, then you know that you have a stronger gravitational power. If it doesn't, there's nothing wrong with that, but maybe it's because you're not exuding an energy that invites others in. If you walk around the streets with headphones on, makes you less approachable because people are going to assume, hey, you know what? I'm not really in the mood to talk right now. And that's okay, but how can you ever meet anyone or connect with others if your energy is always constantly giving off the energy of someone who may not be that kind, you know? People won't want to actually come and talk to you or any of those things, and unless you already have a title that's powerful, then being mean won't give you power. It won't bring you anywhere because nobody wants to work with someone like that. The only time they allow people to be disrespectful and mean is if they somehow have power with money, with status. It doesn't really matter, but it's like we tend to give a pass to the individuals who we deem as successful. It's like they're allowed to break the rules and nothing bad can happen. That's why we have a literal prisoner as our president right now, which is so crazy to me, by the way. And the other practice is to really start mastering your emotions so that you can deal with conflict in a way that helps you to resolve tension, not with force, but with frequency, through calm communication and deep understanding, because that's really where the problem lies. Is like, people won't just slow down long enough to communicate properly. Most of the biggest issues that people have are due to misunderstandings. It's like, nowadays people expect everybody to be perfect or for a relationship to work perfectly. And if it doesn't, then that's like somehow a reflection on the compatibility of the individuals. And it's like, no, you're just giving up because you're afraid of conflict for whatever reason, and you have a strong belief that conflict is like an end-all be-all, I guess, or whatever, but it just doesn't really make any sense because, you know, conflict resolution is a thing, and it's 100% possible and also very healthy to come out of conflict with change. I mean, I don't know why in the world, like, people would think that you can't change or that people can't change. They absolutely can. You just have to make the effort into doing so. You have to try, you have to be willing, and willing is really the strong word at the end of the day. Everybody's like, I just don't understand people. People are so weird to me. You know, they're so contradictory. They're like, oh my god, I want this one thing, and then they don't get that one thing. It, like, makes no sense to me because, like, what is the actual point? Why would you just sit in misery thinking about how you want something when you could literally have it? That makes, like, it really genuinely does not make any real sense to me. And that seems to be the way that a lot of people are living nowadays. And I'm just like, in what delusional world does that actually make sense? Why? Like, we will never in our lives ever feel ready. If you feel ready, it's because you're settling for something comfortable. But if you ever want to grow, you need to be in rooms or with people who push you, who push your insecurities and wounds, because that's what forces you to dig deeper within yourself. And that's the only way that you grow. So, you know, it's like, readiness is it's not like a literal thing. Readiness is a state of being. It's like, it's all in your head. It's like, you know, no, you'll never be ready. It's about how willing are you to show up regardless of the fact that you don't feel ready. And because people nowadays just give up, it's like they have this illusion of options. They think, oh, well, I guess everything will be fine. I'll find someone else, or they'll find someone else. Like, without realizing that it's extremely hard nowadays to find people that you can genuinely connect with. And so to me, it's like, well, wouldn't we want to try and nurture those connections, nurture those relationships, and try and make them our number one priority over everything? Because everything can be figured out quicker with someone else than it could be alone. And again, this is also why I don't understand people. I just don't understand people. To me, it makes absolutely no sense. Like, for the guys who are actually broke, for example, it's like, it doesn't make any sense to me that you wouldn't prioritize a relationship when, if you were in a relationship, you could actually cut down on your costs. Because if you're dating somebody who's grounded and chill, then they may actually meet you halfway. Meaning that, you know, you won't have to break the bank month to month to try and afford everything. You'll have a partner in crime who can help you out, and maybe they are struggling financially in a way too. So by having both of you guys split things and figure things out together, you're actually helping both of each other out. It's like, people have, like, completely lost the point of a relationship. It's like, people forget that even if a man can provide everything right now, that's not a promise guaranteed thing, period. Things can happen. Life is unpredictable. So if men need to have it all together all the time in order to be happy, then, like, when are you ever going to experience happiness? Like, is every single time that you fail, you're just gonna shut everyone out because you fail? Like, that doesn't make sense to me. Failing is a part of life. Messing up is a part of life. It's about how you come back, how you get up, how you get yourself off the ground. And for some reason, I guess relationships nowadays are just not considered valuable, even though they're the most valuable parts of our lives. And so people just give up. Like, it just doesn't make sense. People just, like, give up completely. They're like, okay, yeah, I'm not gonna try everything, anything. I'm just gonna leave. Like, it just doesn't make sense to me. You know, I guess it's just not a logical explanation. The only explanation is trauma, really, so I can't really, and unfortunately you can't argue with trauma. I really wish that I could, because trauma is often a figment of our own creation. You know, we have the power to push those things and fears aside if we so choose to, you know, but you know, sometimes people don't deep down want to, because it opens a can of worms that they think they're not ready for. It's so misfortunate. It's just so misfortunate, you know. It's like, so misfortunate. I don't understand what people are thinking. I don't understand it. I don't think I'll ever be able to understand it, honestly. Like, that's what leads me into the fact that the real manipulation is self-deception. Because pretending you're not influencing people is a way to avoid responsibility for your power. That's the other thing that sucks, is that, like, when people are insecure, they devalue themselves. So they don't understand how much they can mean to other people because they don't value themselves. So because they don't value themselves, they can't imagine what it must be like to lose themselves because, again, they don't value themselves. So it's like, oh, well, I'm gonna look at this other person, and it's like, they're gonna get over it, I'm not good enough, whatever. But again, this is from your insecure headspace. It's not the actual reality. It's what you are projecting onto the other person because you're afraid. There's no other thing. That's just what it is. And it really sucks, because I feel like that's literally every single person nowadays. And it's so annoying because it's so self-sabotaging. It, like, literally makes no sense. And I'm just like, guys, like, what happened to actually wanting to be happy? Like, wasn't that the point? I thought that was the point of why we live. And now it's like, I just don't really get what people care about anymore. I really don't. If you're literally incapable of making plans with someone, and you're incapable of organizing, and you're incapable of, like, trying to figure things out, or you're incapable of talking, like, it just doesn't really make sense how you expect to build a healthy or happy life for yourself or others when that is the way that you go about things. And I hate it because it's just like, it's just so common. It's so common. It's like every single person is like wired in that same way nowadays, and it sucks because I wish that people could see what they're missing out on, you know? I actually have experience being in a healthy relationship, so I remember what it was like. I mean, we had been together for a long time, and every day still felt like the cupcake phase. If it wasn't for COVID and having to move back to America so suddenly, we might still be together, you know? So it's really hard to date and then deal with people who won't just give their whole heart instantly like I do. It doesn't make sense to me, because isn't that the whole point? Like, I mean, I really don't understand. What is the point of dating if you're not dating with the intention of, like, you know, staying long term and building? Like, what is the actual point? I don't understand what the point is. I don't see, like, I don't need attention like that. I don't need physical intimacy like that. So if you're not trying to build something with me, it's like you're literally just a waste of my entire time. So I don't understand why people can't just, like, say what it is that they want in the beginning, because it's like, I've gotten so many situations where I'll just, like, give my everything, and, you know, I guess to them it's nothing. So it's like, well, I don't even know. I just think that the dating pool nowadays is really sucky, and that people should get it together and stop self-sabotaging their entire existence by convincing themselves that being alone makes more sense when it actually makes no sense. And even on a practical level, it's actually extremely impractical. It really makes no sense. I don't understand people. I really don't. I just don't. People complain about finances. They complain about all this shit. I'm like, okay, well, if you're complaining so much about all your independent responsibilities, don't you think your life would be easier if you delegate some of those independent responsibilities onto someone else who actually wants to help you? That it makes no sense as to why someone would be like, yeah, no, I'm just not gonna do that. And that seems to be how everybody is nowadays. It's like so weird. I have friends who are like this. All the dudes I dated are like this. It's like, you give them, like, literally the bare minimum of what it means to be a partner, and they freak out thinking that you're giving them something
that's crazy. And I'm like, if I'm making you happy this quickly and I'm giving you what I would equate to the bare minimum of a partner, you don't know what you're missing. And that's part of what's so frustrating. It's like everybody else here is like super unhealthy. They've all experienced toxic relationships or unhealthy dynamics or stayed way too long in relationships. I haven't been jaded that way. I actually know what it's like to be in a healthy, happy, exciting relationship where things are spontaneous and fun and sexy and extreme. Like, I know what it's like. So, you know, I know how to create a healthy relationship. I know how to maintain one. I know how to do those things because I have personal experience from being in healthy dynamics and healthy relationships. And so every time I try to guide the boat into a healthy relationship, because these men have never been experiencing a partner who treats them well, who actually cares and actually shows up, who nurtures them, who does the things, because I'm doing the bare minimum and what they're used to is less than that, I get punished because of the fact that I'm too much, I'm too intense. I'm not too much, I'm not too intense. It's that you've gotten used to the bare minimum, so having someone show up for you and saying, hey, you're not just a provider, is coming across as pressure because you're not used to being taken care of. And instead of acknowledging that fact and accepting that you were in shitty relationships before so that you can grow and move on from that, you're staying stuck in the idea that you're simply not good enough or not ready for what it is that you actually deserve. And it just irks me so much because I know what a relationship, a healthy, happy relationship looks like, and I know that I have the capability to actually create one, even with partners who believe that they're not ready or have toxic patterns because of my experience in healthy dating dynamics. So it's like every time I feel so frustrated and annoyed because I can see the future that maybe they're too afraid to see. You know, I have like this ability to project the the vision of what could be in reality, not like a projected version of like what I wish a dude to be, like a realistic like vision of what our lives could look like based off of who we are right now. It's not based off of where we could be or whatever. It's none of that. It's all like what I could see happening and the happy memories we could be making right now that are completely realistic to who we are in the present. But they can't see that because they're not used to being treated well. So being treated well makes them feel like they're not good enough. It's so annoying. And I'm like, how can you not realize that the fact that you don't feel good about yourself and the fact that you've had all bad experiences is exactly the reason I want to love you so hard? That doesn't make sense to me how you couldn't see that. Like, I want to be able to, you know, nurture, care for, and love a man so much that it just like loves away the pain that he has had to deal with. I can show him what it's like to be loved properly, and I can show him that there's more to life than just working and functioning all the time, that he can be a human being and be loved and accepted and welcomed and cherished and warmed and just all the things, you know, just by existing. And I like that better because it's just happier and it's real. And in a world of just everybody who's so fake and transactional nowadays, I really hope to find someone who is real, you know, who's okay with sitting in discomfort and who's also okay with showing me their hard sides, you know, when they're not okay and when things are hard, instead of just walking away or shutting me out, because, you know, that doesn't feel so great. Alright, so I want to thank you guys so much for listening to my episode. If you're watching me on YouTube, thanks for joining me here on YouTube. Make sure you guys go down to the links in my description so you can find my other social media platforms. I am just at It's Lindsay J on everything, so it's the same handle everywhere. I would love to hear your guys' opinions and your thoughts on this episode, so please make sure you respond in the comments of my Spotify or the comments in my YouTube video, and even reach out to me in my DMs or through our actual Instagram page at The Awakening Files. So I would love to see you guys over there. Without further ado, let's get into the closing Dear Diary entry. Dear Diary, the scariest part of becoming conscious of your influence is realizing you've always had it. That every room you've ever entered was already reacting to your frequency. That every silence you kept, every smile you forced, every I'm fine you offered was a kind of choreography. You were manipulating before you even had the language to know that's what it was.
to keep the peace, to be loved, to stay safe, to belong. But now, you know. Now you see it for what it is. Not a weapon, not a weakness, a brush, a spell, a current. And if you're already writing the story of how people feel around you, then maybe it's time to do it on purpose, with clarity, with integrity, with soul, because manipulation isn't the lie. The lie is pretending your presence doesn't shape outcomes, pretending your words don't echo, pretending your energy doesn't sculpt the room. It does. The question has never been, am I manipulative? The real question is, what world am I building with my influence? Are you bending reality to hide from yourself? Or are you learning how to use your energy to bring people home, to truth, to love, to each other? Because the most dangerous people in the world aren't the ones who manipulate. It's the ones who do it unconsciously. It's the ones who pretend their energy is neutral, that their choices don't shape the room, that their avoidance isn't control, that their silence doesn't speak. You're not innocent, but you're not evil either. You're powerful. And that power, when rooted in love, becomes the rarest kind of influence. Safe, strategic, sacred. So here's your reminder. You don't need to be perfect to be intentional. You just need to stop pretending you're invisible. Own your impact, refine your frequency, and let your presence become something people remember. Not because it demanded attention, but because it transformed it. XOXO. LJ. Alrighty. Thanks, y'all. See you in the next video. Peace. On the street.